Withdrawals for sterling from Binance, the world's largest cryptocurrency exchange by trade volume, has been suspended yet again for a second time. The move was likely motivated by statements from the UK's financial services regulator, the Financial Conduct Authority, that said that Binance wasn't allowed to undertake regulated activities within its country. This comes after more than half a dozen national regulators besides the UK's Financial Conduct Authority, including Japan's Financial Services Agency, the Ontario Securities Commission in Canada, the Monetary Authority of Singapore. Like, I could go on. There's a huge list of these national regulators that have published warnings, announced investigations, otherwise cautioned investors in recent months about doing business on or with Binance. So one of CoinDesk reporters, Nick D, he wrote this excellent opinion piece suggesting that more than any other centralized crypto platform, this one, Binance, is quite the important one to keep an eye on, because whatever happens to Binance through the midst of this, it's going to signal how regulators around the world are approaching crypto. Not so much, decentralized cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin and Ethereum, but most definitely how they're approaching centralized cryptocurrency exchange businesses like Binance. Would you agree with that, Zach? Do you think that this is definitely one of the most important happenings to keep an eye on in the crypto world right now?
Yes, absolutely. I think the Binance story is a really big story that has yet to fully unfold. I think you're absolutely right. It's this sort of this middle layer of intermediaries who connect users to these public networks. And I keep going back to this thing from, I think it was consensus of this year, and it was this image of regulators need to find a throat to choke. And the throat to choke in this instance, when we're talking about public networks on which cryptocurrencies are exchanged, is these centralized exchange operators who need to comply at least with the letter of the law. And I think what we're seeing here is perhaps the broadest crackdown yet on a very large player in the market. Again, reminiscent of BitMEX, reminiscent of some other authorities, but arguably at a far greater scale. And that's why I think this is a really remarkable story to be following right now, as we try to figure out, again, what's the next thing to happen here? What's the next shoe to drop? Again, Bloomberg reported, I think in May, that there was a U.S. investigation underway, and I think everyone here in the space is really watching to see if that comes to pass. It's been really interesting to watch CZ respond to some of these allegations, and it's going to be interesting to see what happens next. So yeah, I'm certainly thinking it's a big deal. David, I'm curious for your take.
Yeah, so I think it's worth, because it's something that I think those of us who've been doing this for a long time can sometimes forget these basic things. And it's a great opportunity to reiterate one of the oldest and truest things in the space, which is, if you don't have your own keys, they're not really your coins. And right now, if you have tokens on Binance, it would seem like a good idea to start moving them onto some other storage solution. If you're just parking everything there, take it off, put it on a ledger or whatever. Because, we've seen this story before, and I'm not saying that this is going to happen, but in previous instances where there have been regulatory crackdowns on these arbitrage exchanges that have no known address, they've eventually shut down all withdrawals in some cases, and people have lost a lot of money. So be careful about that. The other point I will make, though, is that this was a risk that was always built into the Binance model, because they were engaged in regulatory arbitrage, moving around, trying to not get cracked down on by any one country. And at that point, if you're doing that, maybe there's a good reason for it. As CZ has said, compliance is a journey. But unfortunately, the journey can lead different directions. And right now, they're looking like they're getting the short end of the stick of their bet of not being based anywhere where they're clearly regulated by one entity. I think we need to move on. Who has?
Yeah.
Say that again, Naomi.
So I'm gonna.
I said I'm rooting for Binance.
All right.
Here's to jurisdictional arbitrage. Here's to regulatory arbitrage. Here's to decentralization.
Yeah, Naomi's gonna lift up, and it'll be like a Binance tattoo, like next show, like CZ style. It'll be like,
just a picture of CZ under my arm.
It'll be like Kusama tattoo, and she's got all of them. No, just to add to that story a little bit, you also see other Asian exchanges or Asia-based exchanges suffering right now. So Huobi and OKX have also been caught in the regulatory ire over the last 9 months. So it's not just Binance, but definitely agree that Binance is kind of in the middle of that storm.